Hello, welcome back to the channel, and today we're starting I'm just gonna say, I think you all should sit down, because we're gonna be here for a while. Because today, I'm talking about Five Nights at Freddy's. So, with the upcoming FNAF movie, which is coming out in October at this current time of filming, I wanted to go back and look at all the other games in this series. Starting with FNAF. Just five Nights at Freddy's. I wanted to go back and look at all 11. We're going to be talking about 11 games in this video, going up towards the movie. So, FNAF. Five Nights at Freddy's was a indie horror game created by one Scott Cawthon and released in August of 2014 to almost instant acclaim. Well, maybe not acclaim, but instant popularity. FNAF was seriously everywhere for a solid 3 years after this first game came out, and then the sequel started rolling in. And but I still never forget why Scott made FNAF. He didn't make it because this was a story he'd wanted to tell. No, he made Five Nights at Freddy's because someone or a whole bunch of people told him that his previous games, most notably Chippers, was too scary and looked like a haunted animatronic attraction or something like that. So Scott decided to make said haunted attraction game. And that result was FNAF. But over the course of almost 10 years at this point, FNAF has grown into this conglomerate, this ultra fandom that cannot be, it's just flat out unstoppable. Like I said, 13 games under its belt, plus, 13 games, several books, and a movie coming out this year. FNAF is just an unstoppable beast that it just never ceases to amaze me how unstoppable it is. So, like I said, over the course of this very long video, I'm going to be looking at 11 games. I'm not going to look at all 13 because 2 of the 13 games just really aren't worth talking about. So, in this video, we'll be looking at FNAF, Five Nights at Freddy's, FNAF 2, FNAF 3, FNAF 4, Sister Location, FNAF World, Pizzeria Simulator, Ultimate Custom Night, Help Wanted, Special Delivery, and Security Breach. All in this video. I will not be talking about Freddy in Space 2 or FNAF Fury's Rage. I won't be talking about those two because there's not much in them that's worth talking about, frankly. And they were made as teaser games for Security Breach and all that, so it's not really worth talking about them. So, without further ado, let's begin with FNAF 1. The first Five Nights at Freddy's was released, as I mentioned, in August of 2014. And it is a simple premise, that being a recently hired night guard, having to look over this Chuck E. Cheese style animatronic pizzeria for 5 nights. And at the end of the week, you get paid, and if you want to, you can take a bonus shift. It's a simple run-of-the-mill plot that it's a simple game plot. But that simpleness is kind of what attracted, well, it's not really that. It's more of the idea is what attracted so many people to it. That being, it is a game where you play as a security guard, and you have to look over Chuck E. Cheese rejects. I think so many people were just so weirded out by that idea that they just had to check it out. And like I said, this game became an instant overnight success on the internet. And I want to talk about what makes this first installment so great. One, it's one of the only games in the series that I think is actually scary. And don't get me wrong, there are the other installments have bits and pieces that are scary, but I think this is the only one that is actually fully scary. And I think there's a lot of factors that lead into it. One is the story within the game itself. That being, you're not really given much in this first installment. All you know is from what you see on posters on the cameras and what Phone Guide tells you. But besides that, you're kind of left in the dark about what's really going on. All you know is that 5 kids went missing, and that's about it. So that very liminal story, but it's simple yet intriguing, which is why I think so many people were so intrigued into this. Especially one gentleman, that being the glorious Matthew Patrick. Still milking this series to death. Matthew. We'll never forget your contributions to FNAF. But I also want to talk about the other facets that make this game terrifying. And looking back at it, the game still really holds up, honestly. Like, it still shockingly holds up. The game was made in an engine that it's a 2D game. Every single thing in this game is a PNG, for those who don't know. But I think it's still really effective despite not being a 3D game, because I think horror games were mostly in 3D at this time. Like, I think, the same year we got Alien Isolation, which was another really good horror game. But somehow I still think FNAF is scarier than Alien Isolation. But I think the way it is so scary is, like I said, the story, the simple yet intriguing story, and the sound design. Now, something you need to understand in horror a lot is sound. A good sound design can either make or break your terror levels. Like, if something looks fantastic but sounds horrible, it kind of just takes you out. But something that looks like shit but yet sounds so good can still scare you more, in a way. In fact, audio alone can scare you without any visuals. There's plenty of horror films that use that brilliantly, where you don't really see anything, but the audio kind of clues you into what's really going on. And this game uses audio and sound design in a way that it's so good and leaves you legitimately trembling in your seat. And there's a lot of music cues in here that really work, like if we play the groaning sound effects, some of the animatronics, or the infamous fucking party music. I'm sure my editor can find it, but or probably most notably the jump scare sound effects. Now I want to quickly establish what makes a good jump scare. What makes a good jump scare can be very different depending on what kind of thing you're going for. I think something like FNAF has really good jump scares. Well, some of the games have really good jump scares, but some of the other games don't, and we'll get into that when we get to those installments. But this first game has really good jump scares because there's no lead-in. In my opinion, I think jump scare lead-ins really kill a jump scare, you know? Like, you have the music go really high, then it's quiet, and then a few seconds later, boom, it's that, and it's not effective. It might scare like a 5-year-old, but in my opinion, it's just not really effective. And I think the reason why in FNAF 1 it works so well is because it just comes out of nowhere. You don't expect it. There's no music cue, there's no visual cue, it just happens. I think the only animatronic that has any sort of cue in for the jump scare is the Freddy Out of Power and Golden Freddy, but they're the only ones that have a lead-in. And for those ones, it makes sense for all that have a lead-in, because like for power outage, you run out of power, so obviously some things shut off. So obviously that has to have a lead-in, because it wouldn't make sense if it didn't. But again, basically all the jump scares, and besides those two, don't have a lead-in. They just happen. And I think that's what really makes it scary. In fact, if we can play like a jump scare montage of famous YouTubers getting jump scared for the first time.
No! Stay out, you bitch! Whoa! Oh! Don't do it! Don't do it! Don't do it! Nigga, I ain't no bitch. Fuck that, nigga. What happened? What's that sound? Close yourself in the door.
Lovely. So yeah, as you can see on their faces, I mean, obviously another thing about jump scares that, like I said, it's unexpected, you don't see it coming, so yeah, but like I said, the ones in this game work really well because there is no lead-in. That's really all I'm going to say about the jump scares in this one. So, like I said, so we're on to why it's scary is the story, the audio and stuff being really good, and the really well done jump scares. But let's go into the other facet of a game review and talk about the gameplay. So, the gameplay for this first FNAF is fairly simple. You're just stuck in an office, and you have a little monitor you can flip up, and you have two doors, like here and here, that have a light button and a button to shut the door. And that's it. And you just have to survive till 6 a.m. And I think, despite this game being almost 10 years old, this game still plays really well. This game still plays really well for being almost 10 years old. Especially, I think the only device it doesn't really play well on is certain consoles, especially the Nintendo Switch. It does not really play well on that. But honestly, for when it started on PC, the mouse controls feel pretty good. It's a very simplistic style of gameplay that you can make that gets challenging over time. Like I said, then every night is supposed to be a step up in difficulty. And then once you beat it, you get the ultra hard night, which is night 6. So it's simple yet challenging gameplay, and I think for it works. But also it kind of ended up backfiring because the gameplay is so simple that it's super easy to replicate. And there's plenty of fan games that just kind of replicate this game and don't really do much with it. There are some fan games that do a lot more with it. First, the one in my head I'm thinking of is a FNAF fan game called, but like the sequels to Five Nights at Candy's or Pork Chop's Adventure. Just flash a whole bunch of them like everywhere that are good FNAF fan games. But like I said, the gameplay is simple yet challenging, and that's kind of what makes it fun. It is a very fun game to just sit down and just play around for a few hours. It's a very good stream game too. Like, if you never realized, it's a very fun and easy game to stream, which I think makes it really good as well. Now, going into certain facets of what I don't like about this first game. One is, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not the hugest fan of the look of this game. Not necessarily the visual style. The visual style of like how everything, like all the animatronics and stuff. I'm just pointing to my plushies. Well, they're my sister's plushies. She's letting me use them. But I like the way the animatronics look. They're very stylized and they've become iconic at this point. It's more of like the way the location looks. I'm just not the hugest fan of it. Maybe it's because I don't like pizza places that much. Or pizza places like that much. I'm not a huge fan of them. And I'm just not a huge fan of the way this pizza place looks. It looks very bland and dead. I guess that's ironic to say. But, I don't know. It doesn't look like a place that would make kids happy. Which, according to Phone Guy, he says it's a magical place where kids and grown-ups alike and have fun or whatever. I don't know what the rest of you fucking said. But it just, I don't know. I never really liked the design of the location. Same goes for the office. I'm not a huge fan of the FNAF 1 office either. It feels too cramped. And I'm not claustrophobic or anything. It's not big enough, I think. And I think that is something that gets fixed a bit in FNAF 2. And I'll get to that when I discuss FNAF 2 next time. In the next segment. But, all in all, I'd say this first FNAF game is really good. It's really good at a lot of things. It's really good with ambience and noise. It has great jump scares. It had a simple and intriguing story. Simple, fun, yet challenging gameplay. It had one problem, and that being, I don't care for the location and how the location looks. But besides that, I'd say this first FNAF game is a very solid experience, even almost 10 years later. Now, do all the sequels hold up as well? Well, some do and some don't, and we'll get to them in those next few segments. Starting with the next installment, only released about 3 months later, in November of the same year, FNAF 2. So, welcome to the second segment on FNAF 2. I have a bit more thoughts on FNAF 2 than I do the first game, but I want to quickly dive into what the second game is about. Basically, you take the plot of the first game and you just cram it into a second game and stretch it out even further. Which, in some elements, is look at my hair. In some elements, is a good thing, but in others is not so good. But we'll get into that in a bit. After the huge success of the first FNAF game, Scott Cawthon almost instantly made a sequel just 3 months later, and on November 11th it came out. 2, honestly, pretty much the exact same, how do I put this? The exact same headlines as the first game, but is it as good as the first game? In some attributes it is better, in others it's weaker. So, obviously, the setup is basically the exact same, only everything is bigger. The location, the amount of animatronics, and the mechanics of what you need to do are bigger. Now, but this time, it takes place a few years before the first game, in 1987, well, according to the timeline, which it's kind of hard to trust that thing at this point. But we play as another night guard looking to get a paycheck. Only this time, things are bigger, better, and more dangerous. With a whopping... well, let's just say, if the first game only had 5 animatronics, this game has over double that, and all of them basically do the exact same thing, except a few. So, into the gameplay with this one, like I said, in parts, it's a lot better than the first one, but in other aspects, it's worse. And in other things, it's kind of on par. One thing I forgot to mention in the segment for FNAF 1 is that by night, 3, it's basically you're just watching one camera, that being Pirate's Cove, to see if Foxy is left. And occasionally you might switch to, the bathroom or one of the halls to see if Freddy's there. Because Freddy has a weird-ass AI that I don't want to mention because it's really complicated and dumb. But in this game, it's even worse, where by the end of it, it's just a wind-up simulator for that little fucker. And it's very repetitive gameplay. The gameplay in this is worse, in my opinion. It's very repetitive. By nights 3 and 4, it's the same fucking thing, just harder. The gameplay in this is just not as good as the first one, I'm going to be frank. Another thing about FNAF 2 that is worse than the original is it's not as scary. Probably because the audio quality is not as good. While pieces of the audio are pretty good, most are below average and not the best. Editor just play a whole bunch of clips. In aspects that I think are better than FNAF 1 is, one, I like the animatronics. I like the more wide a range of animatronics this game has, even though there's basically just 2 sets of the exact same. You have the new toy animatronics, but then you have the withered animatronics. And, I guess these 2 little shits, Balloon Boy and JJ, you have those 2 as well, but... And then you have the marionette, and don't forget these 2 shadow fucks. But I do like that there's more animatronics, but that also leads into a negative, the fact that most of them do the exact same thing, being they'll walk to your office, and then yell, "Funk" on a mask, and then they go away. There's only 3 animatronics that do something different. One is Withered Foxy, who will walk to your office, but he is not fooled by the mask. So you have to flash a flashlight at him. Which, in concept, does work, and for the first few nights it works fine. But like with another character, the AI gets a little repetitive after a while. The second character that does something different is Balloon Boy, where instead of jump scaring you, he'll come into your office and steal your sweet, succulent AA batteries. Which, will fuck you over if Foxy happens to come right after. But the third character that does something different, and by far the worst part of this game, the marionette. I'm going to put you down, because you're my sister's plushie. Make sure you're standing. But, I hate the marionette in this game. I think, in the lore, it's an awesome character, but fuck, I hate this character. It just makes the gameplay of FNAF 2 such a chore to get through, because by the end of it, you're just opening your cam to this specific camera to wind the music box. You're not checking the other cams because there's no point to. It just makes the gameplay so goddamn repetitive. And it really doesn't get harder as it goes on. Honestly, the marionette is by far the worst part of this game, and probably one of the worst gameplay pieces in the entire series. But I don't want to put it solely on the marionette's fault, as in practice, the mechanic can work, and it can definitely add challenge, because not only would you have to check your other cameras in your office, but you'd also have to go back and make sure that doesn't go out. The music box doesn't go out. But the other animatronics don't attack as often, so you're more or less just gonna wind the music box. And it's even worse when you're doing the custom night, because from what I remember, because I can't remember if you can't even turn them off. I think they did add something to turn the marionette off later, but when you initially play that custom night, there's no way to turn them off, so it's just really annoying. Like, it's basically the whole Pirate Cove thing from the first game, but made 20 times worse. The one thing that I think is better than FNAF 1 here is I like the location and the design of the location in this game a lot more than in the first one. Like I said in the segment for the first one, the first game's location feels very dead. Doesn't really seem like a place that would make children happy. It's not a nice looking place. But this location looks looks better. There is some things other that I want to say, but on the whole, FNAF 2's gameplay is just a worse and more repetitive version of FNAF 1's. Which is sad to say, because this game has some of my favorite animatronics in the series. That being Withered Foxy, and ironically, the marionette. As annoying as he is in the game, he's one of my favorite characters. Well, it's weird. But another thing that I do think is better than the first game is I love the lore it adds. The lore this game adds, comparative to the first one, is monumental. I mean, not as monumental as some of these other fucking sequels, but but I think the way this game adds to the lore that I think is better than, just I'll throw out an example for later, FNAF 4, is it adds onto it, but it's more subtle about it, where it still kind of retains a mystery. And the later games do kind of keep that, but just not as well, in my opinion. Where, like, you get these mini games when you die, and it's revealing, our killer, the Purple Man, William Afton. And trust me, we're not done talking about him. Oh god, we're gonna speak of him a lot. But where it reveals the 5 dead kids, the give life from the marionette, and all that. Like, I think this game has some of the best lore stuff in the entire series. Well, lore introduction, anyway. So, I'm just gonna say, all in all, FNAF 2 is a mixed bag. Gameplay-wise, it's worse and more repetitive than the first one, but it has really good animatronic character design, really good location, and really good lore addition. So, it's definitely a mixed bag. I definitely put FNAF 2 lower than FNAF 1. So, for our ranking, we in first we have FNAF 1, and then second we got FNAF 2. But something might change when we go into FNAF 3. We're finally concluding the first trilogy with Five Nights at Freddy's 3. Five Nights at Freddy's 3, in my opinion, is a lot better than FNAF 2. It is a lot better. Is it as good as the first one? Well, let's get into it. So, FNAF 3 has the exact same setup as the first two games. How original. Only, this time, instead of being in a pizzeria, it's in a haunted attraction based around the pizzeria. And another thing that I think is that is really different than this game is the whole style and aesthetic of this one. Like I said, I hate the aesthetic of the first game, and I like it, and I like the aesthetic of the second game. But this third game probably has my favorite aesthetic so far. It's dark, it's dingy, it's dirty, it's green. I like that whole visual aesthetic a lot more. Maybe it's because it's a lot creepier. But, like I said, it's more dark, it's more... I just like it more because it's more of a horror aesthetic comparative to the first two. Which the first two had creepy moments in its style, but this one is a lot better. Another thing that I think is definitely interesting, especially for the gameplay loop of this one, is that in this game, there's only one animatronic that can kill you. That being Springtrap. So, while the other animatronics in this kind of just fuck with you, it's implied that the Phantom animatronics, and I mean it's heavily implied, but that the Phantom animatronics in this game, you know, these watermelon boys, aren't real. Which, yeah, considering their name is Phantom and they can't kill you, that's completely fair. But I'm just gonna go for a minute. I love the design of Springtrap. Spoiler alert, if you really care. For spoilers, Springtrap is William Afton, Purple Man, for those who somehow don't know. William Afton is Springtrap. I just spoiled it, like how Dumbledore dies in Harry Potter, or how the dead body in the middle of the bathroom is really the man behind it all in Saw. I just went ahead and spoiled it for you. But I absolutely love the design of Springtrap. Again, as a huge horror fan, and just seeing all that gore and meat just hanging through the suit is really cool. It's a lot more gruesome, especially in some fan versions, like, I don't really want to mention this game, but Nindormitibus. And just for a quick clarification, that is a disgusting fan game that I will not discuss any further. But there is a lot of cool designs people have made with Springtrap over the years, and frankly, dude's one of my favorite characters. Now, as Springtrap goes on, he'll degrade over time, and then he'll get another upgrade. But we'll get to those designs when we get to them. But I absolutely love this first design. The Phantom animatronic designs, however, I'm not a huge fan of. As I mentioned, they look like fucking watermelons. Especially Chica. Jesus Christ. It's a watermelon. I want to smush it. But I don't know why Scott just took the PNG models he had of Chica, Freddy, Foxy, Balloon Boy, and the Marionette and just put a shitty-ass, gross watermelon texture over them, because it looks awful. It does not look good. In certain frames, it looks good. Like, some of the jump scare frames look pretty good. Oh, yeah, I forgot Mangle. But some of the jump scare frames look fine. Especially the one where the puppet's just right in your face. I think that one looks pretty good. But most of the time, the Phantom animatronics don't look great in game. And especially when people were making jokes about them looking like watermelons, it's definitely... yeah, it's not great. It's not great. Now, let's get into the core gameplay. As I mentioned before, only one of the animatronics this time can kill you. Like, as mentioned, Springtrap. He's the only one who can kill you. While the Phantom animatronics will jump scare you and mess around with your stuff in the office. Now, in this game, you have two sets of cameras. Well, it's technically on the same monitor, but it's technically two different things. You have the ground cams and the vent cams. Now, the ground cams are just around the area, and then the vent cams are just for the vents, obviously. But there's also a secondary panel. That one to reset your systems. That being camera, ventilation, and audio. And the Phantom animatronic jump scares can mess with any of them. And when this happens, your office lights will flash red, or something else will go down, and you have to quickly slide over and fix it. In concept, I think this could work. In fact, there are aspects, and I think a lot of other games, especially fan games, that do this idea a bit better. Because frankly, I don't hate this new mechanic, but I also don't love it either. Because I understand why it takes really long to do it. It makes the thrill and it makes it harder, and it makes it more adrenaline pumping when you think, oh, there's something behind it, or he's going to come get me while I'm doing this. But it just doesn't add much. And in later nights, it gets absorbently annoying with constant phantom jump scares or things just going down all the time. Especially in night 7, which understandably that's supposed to be, I think, nightmare mode. But even in like early nights, it can get pretty extreme if you're not lucky. So it's definitely a mixed bag of a mechanic. Sometimes I think it works, sometimes it doesn't. I'd say take that with a grain of salt. It's definitely not great, but for what it is, the mechanic definitely could have worked better. Now, thankfully, this game ditches the whole watch one camera for the entire night shtick. And instead, we actually are given incentive to look around the other cameras. Because there is another mechanic that I think works really well here, and that is the play audio button. The way this button works is you go to a certain cam, you hit it, and Springtrap will go over there, leading them away from your office. I think this mechanic works really well, especially with the whole singular animatronic can kill you thing. And it's the one time where the secondary panel mechanic actually works, is when they can take the audio down, so you have to quickly fix it. I think that's probably the only time that second panel mechanic works, in my opinion. Because the only real reason you use your cameras in this game is to, lure Springtrap away. That's the only real reason you use them in this game. So I have no real reason why they can just shut your cameras off. Ventilation, I kind of get. It's the second way that you can die. But I think the audio thing is the only thing that works on that panel. But I want to get into another negative I have about this game. The jump scares a lot of the jump scares in this game suck. Plain and simple. Especially Springtrap's. My God, are his jump scares just awful. For one of my favorite characters, just for one of a lot of people's favorite characters, his first game and his jump scares suck. Like, just watch. It's fucking atrocious. It's atrociously bad. And I love the first two games for their jump scares. But these ones are just really, one, they have a bit of a lead-in, of him, entering the room, which I don't like that. Like I said, I think jump scares, in my opinion, work best when there's no lead-in. It just happens. And the first game did that really well. Both the first and second game did that really well. But Springtrap no. Just no. Springtrap, you've disappointed me. Go to your room. Yeah, don't talk back to me, you little shit. Go to your room. Disappoint me. Now, let's get into probably the most insane thing that FNAF 3 has, and that is the lore editions. It's not anything too more monumental. Well, I mean, it's pretty monumental, but it's not anything too more big than FNAF 2. But FNAF 3 reveals who Springtrap is. I mean, as I mentioned before, it's William Afton. But in this game, there's actually two endings. One ending shows how how William became Springtrap, and the other shows the souls of all the people inside the animatronics finally being put to rest. For now. And I do like both of these endings. It's kind of like an Undertale thing where you choose to help, I guess, because the way you unlock the secret ending is fucking insane. Some of it's fine. You find phantom cupcakes on the cameras. But then you punch a code into a wall? What? Just fucking boop, boop. You let me just fucking pull up my wall and beep, beep, beep. It's like, what? That makes no sense. But I do like the endings themselves. It's very much kind of like an Undertale kind of thing. Which, funny enough, both this and Undertale came out the same year in 2015. Was Scott and Toby onto something? Probably just a coincidence. But where, like, you either choose to help them get to rest, or you choose not to. Oh, and then in both endings, the haunt burns down. Yep, they show a newspaper of it burning. Well, the aftermath of it burning. So, FNAF 3, in general, I think FNAF 3 is a lot better than FNAF 2. But is it as good as FNAF 1? I think I like it more than FNAF 1. I know a lot of people say FNAF 3 is one of the weaker games, but I think personally FNAF 3 just works better for me. Like I said, it's not all perfect. Springtrap's jump scare is fucking awful, and some of the gameplay can become a little repetitive as it goes on, but I think it is better than FNAF 1, gameplay and aesthetic-wise. And fuck it, lore-wise too. But, yeah. Let's move on to the false final chapter with FNAF 4. So, we've made it to the first time this series wanted to end. And, was this false ending good? No. No, it wasn't. It really, really wasn't. I'm just gonna be completely honest here. I don't think this ending is good at all, but let's talk about why I think FNAF 4 is bad. Now, when it comes to all these games, I think there's this is probably one of the only ones that I would actually call bad. I know back in FNAF, when I was talking about FNAF 2, I bashed that game a lot for having repetitive gameplay, but at least this FNAF 2 is borderline playable. This game is not. This game is basically borderline unplayable. It's honestly a stroke of luck I even beat it in the first place. But let's talk about why I think FNAF 4's gameplay is atrocious. So, FNAF 4 is yet again another prequel, taking place even before the events of FNAF 2. And in this game, instead of being a office worker who just, a security guard, a security guard who wants to get some good pay, instead you play as a young boy who has to survive against animatronics in the middle of the night in his bedroom that has 2 doors for some reason. Now, I will say this, I do like that this game is different comparative to the first 3, because I think I would have hated it more if it was just the same office thing again. So I think in concept, I understood what they were going for. Again, having a different style of gameplay and just a different style overall. But it just doesn't really come together well for me. Like I said, this game is borderline unplayable. Like, it's ridiculous how horrid this game is to play. But there are a few good things. And before I tear this game apart, let's go over the good things. Because there's not many good things in this. The first good thing is that all the animatronics in this game, just all of them in this, are designed, probably have my favorite designs of the entire series. I love the Nightmare animatronic designs. I know some of them are more fucking goofy than others, but on the whole, I think these are some really good designs. And I think also the jump scares are pretty good too. There's one aspect of the jump scares that I hate, but we'll get into that when we get to the negatives. So yeah, I think this game has some really good animatronics and animatronic designs. Like I said, probably some of my favorite in the series. And the only other thing I like about this game is the lore minigames. Yep, it's the only other thing I like in this game. Is in the lore minigames, one, they control well, and two, the lore they add is really cool. And I mean, come on. Without it, we wouldn't have the Bite of 87. So, I mean, there's that. We wouldn't have that glorious meme. But, and the lore they add is really cool. And I think in the minigame 8-bit style it's shown to us is a cool way to show it. And also a way that people won't get mad, because a lot of people surprisingly get mad if a video game is too gory, even though if it's rated M. Or even filmed for that matter. Jeez, like all the people getting mad at Guardians 3 is just insane. But yeah, those are the only two things I like in this game. The animatronic designs are awesome, and the 8-bit lore minigames are cool. Now let's get into everything else. We're starting with the gameplay. By God, is this gameplay not fun. In the first 3 games, the gameplay isn't the most well-polished thing, and like I said in the other 3 segments, it will eventually get repetitive. But at least those 3 games were playable. So, instead of having cameras and stuff to check, instead you have to run from 4 to 4 different areas of your room to make sure the animatronics aren't there. That being side door, closet, side door, and bed. And you have to make sure no animatronics are there. But the animatronics basically work the exact same as they did in the other games. It's just you don't have cameras anymore. Bonnie and Chica basically work the exact same as they did in the first game, they being they'd come down the hall. Foxy, Foxy just works the exact same, where only instead of coming from Pirates Cove and coming down, I guess in the frame would be this hall, the left hallway, but instead he comes from the closet. But it's still kind of the same mechanic, where you just have to keep your eye on him to make sure he doesn't go. The only character who has a different mechanic is Freddy, who, in this game, instead of Freddy just having the most wacky-ass shit imaginable, where you have to keep him stuck between 2 cameras, Freddy has been downgraded. To where basically you just have to turn around and flash your bed every now and again to make sure Freddles don't spawn. And if you want to know what a Freddle is, this is a Freddle. They're ugly. And sadly, just like the other games, it gets quite repetitive. Especially on fucking Nightmare mode. Oh my God, that is the most brain aneurysm thing ever. But I want to detail what the main aspect of this gameplay that doesn't work is the way you're supposed to find the animatronics. Now, obviously, Freddy and Foxy, they're fine. Their mechanics work okay, it's fine. It's not the most fun thing to play against, but they work. Chica and Bonnie, however, don't. So the way you're supposed to locate Chica and Bonnie in the hallways is by listening to them. Listening for breathing. But I don't know who recorded this breathing sound effect, but for the life of me, I can't fucking hear it. And even when I do hear it and shut the door, they'll still fucking jump scare me. It's just... how? Like I said, it was just a lucky roll of the dice that I beat this game. And by God, in Night 5, it is just a nightmare. Again, not as bad as Nightmare Mode, where you have to go up against fucking Nightmare. But it's not fun, man. Another thing that I think this game really drops the ball is the sound design. You heard me talk about how good the sound design in the first game, the first and third game were, but the sound design here is just bad. Like, really, really bad. None of the ambient noise in this game is scary. I'm just gonna say it. It's not. None of it is scary. It doesn't thrill me. It doesn't put me in a spoopy mood. The main title theme is awful. And the jump scare noises are some of the worst in the series. Like, I don't know how, but they're somehow worse than Springtrap's jump scare noise. And that jump scare noise was also really bad. So, man, just... FNAF 4 is just a fucking F game, man. I don't like it. Like I said, the only real good things I like about FNAF 4 is I like the animatronics and I like the lore minigames. But besides those two things, this game sucks. It did have one potential saving grace, though. I like the plush trap minigame. I think the plush trap minigame is the only real time that uses the whole, I guess, child house thing setting effectively, because I don't like the house setting. Like I said, it makes no sense for this kid to have 2 doors to his room, and just isn't really that unique to look at. Like I said, I do think it's better than just having it be in another office, but I don't know, it's just, I don't like the way this house looks. It's not really appealing to look at. It's very bland and very 2D, which, I mean, you know, it was made in Click Team, so what do you expect? But I think the Plush Trap minigame is the only time the house setting actually works. And it also uses the whole flashlight mechanic well. Because, by God, does the flashlight mechanic in the main game suck ass. Essentially, the way this minigame works is you have to catch Plush Trap on the X before he gets you. Or before the time runs out. And if you do this, it skips the first 2 hours of the night. And I think this is a cool idea. Having a little, I guess, really challenging minigame you can play that gives you a reward for beating it. That makes the next night easier. I think that is a cool idea. That in this game, the minigame is good. It's just too bad the rest of the game sucks. And I think Scott should bring this back one day, or whoever is running FNAF now should bring this back for a later game. Because I think the idea of a minigame that gives you a reward to make the next night easier, I think is a cool idea. It's just not executed well here, because FNAF 4 as a whole just sucks. But I do like the Halloween update. Not because it fixes the gameplay, just because it adds new animatronics that are awesome. But, that is, FNAF 4. Please let the next game be good. Please let the next game be good. So, after Five Nights at Freddy's 4 came out, and, was a mixed bag for a lot of people, Scott Cawthon was hyping up a new project. Seeing as, again, everyone thought FNAF 4 was the final chapter, but Scott was hyping up a new project. It was all in mystery. No one knew what it was. There was teasers, there was trailers, but, speaking of that trailer, when the trailer dropped, well, so did people's jaws, because people found out that the next FNAF game was not going to be a horror game. It instead was going to be a Pokemon-style turn-based RPG that is cutesy. And that is FNAF World. So, FNAF World. I'm just gonna be upfront. I like this game. I don't know why so many people hate it. I think this is a genuinely fun game. It's not perfect. It does have some issues, but I think this game is a massive step up after the travesty that was FNAF 4, but let's get into it. So, the basic setup for this game is you can play and control the animatronics. Like I said, this is a Pokemon-style turn-based RPG, where you, controlling all the animatronics on a team, have to set out and stop the evil and Animatronica, Animatronic Village, Animatronic Land. They haven't really thought of the name that well. And that's it. That's the basic premise. You and your robot animatronic team have to stop an evil, which turns out later to be Scott Cawthon himself. Yeah, the final boss of this game is Scott Cawthon himself, which, admittedly, that it's both a twist you can see coming and somehow genius. I want to get into why I think so many people don't like this game, is the fact that it's not what people were thinking it was going to be. It's like, when you hear a new FNAF game after FNAF 4, you're thinking, oh, this is going to be big. But when it turned out to be FNAF World, I mean, I can understand being disappointed, but I wasn't disappointed with this game. I think this game is genuinely fun. I mean, parts of it are annoying as hell, but we'll get to that. But just saying, visually, I think this is one of the best looking games in the series. It, like I said, it's very cutesy, which is the point. It's supposed to be like the FNAF characters are made cute. Like little lovable plushies. Other than like Pokemon. But I honestly really like the way this game looks. Just the nice colorful art, 3D art style is done really well here. I think the one aspect of it that isn't so great is some of the enemies look a little wonky, but for the most part, I think this game's style and visuals are pretty good, and it's also nice to get some color, as the other games were either really bland colors or just one color. Looking at you, FNAF 3, in your green-ass office. So it is nice to see a whole bunch of cool colors in here, and as someone who appreciates art, I like it. And getting into the gameplay for FNAF World, it works! Like I said, this is made to be a turn-based RPG, where you, in a team of animatronics of two, I think, yeah, you get two teams of 4, Team A, Team B. And each animatronic you get has 3 moves that you can select when their turn comes up. And this will allow you to help defeat the bad guys. And over the course of the game, you unlock more and more animatronics. But at the start of the game, you start with the main 4 and then the toys. Now, granted, some characters are more overpowered than others. And once you unlock them, you kind of just get through the rest of the game with them. The way the animatronic unlocking thing works is that it's completely random. Like, you can get fucking Phantom Freddy, or you can get fucking Nightmare. Like, it's completely random which ones you'll get. And I think the gameplay handles pretty well. The game was only ever released on PC, which is kind of sad. I think this game could definitely use some other ports. Like to console, Switch, other consoles like the Switch, Xbox, PlayStation, all that. I think this game kind of does deserve it in a way. It's often regarded as the forgotten FNAF game, but honestly, I think people need to look at it more, you know? I'm just gonna say, I think FNAF World deserves better recognition. But I did say there were some annoying parts, in that, like I said, the power dynamic between some of the animatronics and other animatronics is very unbalanced. Like I said, once you unlock someone like Nightmare or Nightmare Fredbear, the game becomes exponentially easy. Even if you're playing on the hardest difficulty and you have them, it's still pretty fucking easy. I mean, granted, there are times where the enemy dynamic is way too much in the enemy's favor. Like, freaking Chipper or, I guess, Rainbow, but even then Rainbow is still beatable. There are some power dynamics that are very much unbalanced and definitely could be tweaked a little bit to be more fair for both the enemies and the player. But on the whole, like I say, I think this game plays really well. It's definitely not perfect. There are times where it doesn't play as well, and some of the turn-based stuff does get a little, I don't want to say repetitive, but a little, I guess, boring. It's a problem with a lot of RPGs is that a lot of the game is grinding, and that's kind of why I've never been really a big fan of RPGs, is that eventually it does get boring. But since FNAF World is more of a parody and more of a spoof on RPG games, it's not that bad, and you are constantly getting to a new objective in the game, so I didn't mind when it got a little boring too much. But for some people who know RPGs well, it might be a little annoying to them. One thing I also have to say about this game is some of the enemy designs are fantastic. Some of them are so simple, but some of them are yet so complex. Like you have enemies like fucking Bounce Pod, who are just literally a freaking reject PVZ character with a freaking bean with a Tetris spring in a pot. But then you have enemies like fucking Owl, Security Owl, that are super detailed. If I have to say another negative is that there's not really much to the game's story, which, I mean, in a way is kind of the point. You're just given a basic-ass setup, and that's basically it. But they never really do much to continue the story. And Update 2 is just that. It's Update 2. It adds new things. But I do like they don't add a lot of lore to the timeline stuff with this game, because it's not really what it was meant to be. But they do add a lot of cool lore and symbolism. Like, again, Update 2's ending could be an allusion to how one of the creators of the Freddy Fazbear franchise died or something. I think definitely add more just story to the game itself. Not necessarily lore for the series, but I think if they added more story stuff for the actual story of the game, I think it could have been a bit better. As you're just given the basic, and that's the basis for what's going on, and that's it. There's not really much else to it. Fredbear will pop up occasionally, but you don't really care about what normal Fredbear is saying, and more about what glitched Fredbear is saying for, the clock ending, which even then, that doesn't provide much. So, again, FNAF World, definitely a step up, but is it as good as some of the ones on the top of the list? No, but it's definitely a better game, and definitely a game that I believe deserves more recognition. Well, we've made it to the 5th official installment in the FNAF series, with Sister Location, of course. So, I'm very mixed on this one. Parts of it are really good, and parts of it are really bad, but it's definitely a mixed bag for me. So, let's just get into it. So, FNAF Sister Location is, according to the timeline, another prequel, taking place, I believe, at the exact same time as FNAF 4, from what I remember. If only I had MatPat here to over-explain fucking everything. But yes, FNAF Sister Location takes place at the same time as FNAF 4, only it takes place in an underground bunker, where we meet the Funtime animatronics, where we got the new gang of Circus Baby, Ballora, Funtime Freddy and Bonbon, and Funtime Foxy. So this game is very different comparative to the other entries. Well, FNAF's 1 to 3 and were about you sitting in one place watching cameras, and FNAF 4 was basically the same thing without the cameras. Sister Location is kind of this game where you're just plopped into this area and you just have to do tasks, like Among Us. You just have to do tasks around the bunker to make sure everything is still functioning, while making sure the animatronics can't kill you. And every single night of the game, you're doing something different. So let's go through, and I think for this segment, I'm going to go through each night one by one, detailing what I like about it and what I don't like about it. So, for night 1 of Sister Location, we're given quite the simple task. We just head in, make sure the animatronics are at their posts, and, it's kinda it. It's kinda really the old kit and caboodle. There's not much here, and not much, and I don't think anything can kill you. It's kind of like the intro night to FNAF 3, where you're just getting set up, there's no threat, it's just a way to show you everything. And I wasn't a huge fan of it in that game, but here I kind of get it, seeing as it's a new gameplay style entirely. So I like the whole intro night section in this game more than I did in FNAF 3. Because FNAF 3 is the exact same as FNAF 1 and 2, so I don't really get it whether they did an intro night for FNAF 3 that with no threats, but I understand it here, because this gameplay is so much different. And the way this game plays is you have to click. You click buttons to go into different rooms. It's not free roam. The game explicitly gives you a path to follow, which kind of sucks. I kind of wish the game was a bit more linear. I wish the game was more free roam than it is, because this game is very linear with where it wants you to go. So I feel like if it was more free roam, that could be a bit better. But maybe they just didn't have enough time to do that. But who knows? Maybe that wouldn't have made it good, but I think it probably would have for me. But yeah, night 1, just an introductory night to get you settled in for the new point and click aspect. Night 2 requires you to go to Circus Baby's room to make sure everything's on the up and up. When suddenly, the power goes out. And then, mysteriously, you hear a voice saying you should hide under the desk, which is a horrible idea, but you do it anyway. When the Biddy Babs attack, and you have to click and drag your mouse over to make sure they don't open a hatch to get to you. And I'm just gonna say it, I hate this section. This section really controls poorly. Like, it is really bad. The mouse really has a hard... And if you're playing it on a mouse pad, it is awful. Playing it on a mouse is a little better, but still not great. Because the way you have to hold and click and hold to drag is just... It doesn't control that well. And yeah, it's definitely a tedious section because you might die a lot. But sadly, it's not the most tedious. Trust me, we're gonna get there. But after that, we need to go down to the power room to reset everything. When a gasp! Funtime Freddy emerges inside the power room. So we have to reboot all the power switches. Which, from what I remember, there's like 10. And they take forever. And if you flip the monitor down, you have to restart. All to make sure Freddy doesn't jump scare you. This section is also annoying. But I still like it. Yeah, it's annoying and tedious, but unlike the previous section, I still think this one's fun. Because, again, you have to either sacrifice the time and risk getting jump scared to fix one, or just to make sure, or do a double check to make sure Freddy isn't near you. I think it is a really well-rounded thing. It's just, it doesn't play that well. Not to mention the thing you have to do to get in here is actually pretty good. The section where you have to crawl through Ballora's room is actually pretty good. It's a nice tense section where you have to crawl along the floor, but if you hear Ballora's ballerina music, you have to stop moving. It's a simple section, but I think it works. It's simple, but plays well and is pretty good. So, night 2, a mixed bag. One really bad minigame, one really good minigame, and one that's in the middle. Night 3 is actually pretty good all around. The first thing you have to... Okay. Hand Unit, who replaces Phone Guy in this. Hand Unit tells you you have to do some things with Funtime Freddy. If you get my drift. What were you thinking? Sex? Ew! You just have to do maintenance on him. Although to a robot that might be sex. But, so you have to crawl through Funtime Foxy's room to get to the maintenance room. And just like the Ballora room section, this section's pretty good. Instead of crawling around, you're walking with a flashbulb camera. And you have to stop to take a picture to make sure Funtime Foxy isn't near you. Again, just like with the Ballora section, it's pretty well-rounded. Again, simple, but well-rounded and fun to play. Then we get to the Funtime Freddy fixing minigame, where we're tasked with opening up Funtime Freddy's face and chest cavity to remove certain parts. But while we're doing this, we have to make sure Bon Bon won't kill us. This section is okay.
Great. It looks like
some of the click things when I was playing it didn't really register, and I don't know if that's because I was playing on I wasn't like I don't know if it's because my mouse wasn't working or anything, but it's definitely more. It might be on me, but this section played very mixed.
Press the button next to Freddy's right eye.
But I think in concept this works out pretty well, and in a later FNAF game, they would do a fixing mini-games that work pretty well. We'll get to that when we get to it. So, Night 3, pretty good all around, honestly.
Good job.
One really good mini-game and a mini-game that's okay. Then we get to Night 4. This is by far one of the worst nights in the series. Night 4 sees you awaken inside of a Funtime animatronic mask inside of the scooping room. And the night starts off with Baby telling you are in the scooping room, which is bad news bears for you. Because the scooper don't discriminate. It will scoop out in robot and human intestines. So you need to hide and make sure not to move. But the animatronic suit you happen to be inside of has spring locks, which, to anyone who's seen FNAF memes, well, spring locks, yeah, they're not good. Just ask William Afton. They're not good. So, you have to constantly rewind the spring locks to make sure they don't go off on you. But at the same time, Minarinas climb up the sides of your face, and you have to stop them from getting in by clicking on them. This night is just the embodiment of tedium. It is the embodiment of things that aren't fun to play. Because not only do you have to worry about six spring locks, plus you have to worry about Minarinas climbing up on you. It's a very unfair balancing act where you're not given much time to really care about the spring locks and the Minarinas at the same time. It's just a really unfair balancing act that I don't like. So, but after this night is over, which by the way, this night takes for fucking ever too, you get to Night 5. But I'm just gonna say, Night 4... it's just bad. Just bad. Don't like it. Although I did have a funny story. The first time I played this location, I beat Night 4 without doing anything. The game just bugged out and let me win. It's hilarious. But then we get on to Night 5, which, just like Night 1, there's not much here. Which, again, it serves another purpose, because throughout the entire game, all the Funtime animatronics had been getting scooped out. For another character, Ennard, which his name is supposed to be like innards, because he's a mix of all the innards of all the animatronics. Get it? Very clever, Scott. Very clever name. But Ennard lures you to the scooping room after showing you a dead hanging technician. Fun. But Ennard lures you to the scooping room, where after being revealed, it was a trap, and Ennard fucking scoops your insides out, and then uses your body as a skin suit. Yay! Like I said at the beginning of this part, Night 5 just doesn't have much to it. It really only has one part, one like minigame section, where you have to enter like a thing into baby. There's not much here in terms of gameplay, which, if you're going for the normal canon ending, is fine. But there is one more thing we need to mention with this game. It's Secret Sixth Night. So, after completing a really long and really annoying minigame of giving cupcakes to children as circus baby, you unlock a key card. And if you head back to the section in Night 5 where you input in this key card, you get access to a secret night that is based around the gameplay of the first 3 games, where you're given cameras and you have to fend yourself off from Ennard throughout the night. And honestly, this night's pretty good. There's not much to it. There's only like 5 cameras, and there's only 1 animatronic to deal with throughout the whole thing. But again, it's a secret bonus night, so it's understandable why there's not a lot to it. But if you beat it, you get the fake ending and a pretty damn good cutscene of Ennard Wake getting into your house. Can we play that? Thank you. So, again, personally, I prefer the fake ending more than the canon ending, because I just like the fake ending more, and even then, it still leads to the same outcome, so maybe it's a pick and choose thing. But after getting said fake ending, you can unlock the custom night. And I haven't really been going into the custom nights of the other games. Well, the other 4. FNAF World doesn't have one. Because there's not really no real reason to go into them. But the custom night in Sister Location is probably the worst one. It is really bad. Because it's not really a custom night. It's just extra nights. You can control how difficult the animatronics you're going up against are. You're just given levels to play through. And, I mean, they're fun to play, but it's not really a custom night. You're just going through bonus levels. So, I think all in all, Sister Location is a very mixed game. Parts of it are really good, but parts of it are not so much. So I think I'm going to have to go within the middle of the road for this one. I can understand why some people say it's the best game, and I can also understand why some people say it's the worst game. But, up on our next segment, Scott tries to end the series again in Pizzeria Simulator. So, as mentioned previously, Scott tried ending the FNAF series again with 2017's Ultimate Custom... We're not there yet, Jesus Christ. 2017's Pizzeria Simulator. Why did I say Ultimate Custom Night? It's because my brain's fried. And we're only on Game 7. But yes, Pizzeria Simulator was supposed to be, like what FNAF 4 was, the finale to the series. And, did Scott get it right this time? Mostly. So, the premise for this game is, instead of being a security guard or a little boy, instead you're the manager of a Freddy Fazbear location, as this humble infographic tells us.
It's a new day. It's your time to shine. It's time to take your career into your own hands. You've saved money your whole life. Great. Now it's time to put all your eggs into one basket and take a huge gamble on your future. A gamble that comes with a 100% chance of success in some cases. What are we talking about? We're talking about becoming a Fazbear Entertainment franchisee. That's right, restaurant ownership and management. Something almost anyone can do with a limited degree of success. Sure, it's a lot of money to invest, but everyone's doing it. And that means it's safe and lucrative. With your initial investment, you'll receive everything you need to get started, including a small room, some tables, and electricity. But don't forget about the money you had left over after buying your franchise package. Use it to decorate, buy a stage, buy attractions and animatronics, and much, much more. Now, let's take a look at a few things that will help you get started as a Fazbear Entertainment franchisee, such as atmosphere. Making sure your establishment has an inviting atmosphere is essential to bringing in new customers. Entertainment. Having a lot of entertainment value in your restaurant will ensure that customers come back. Bonus revenue. Coin-operated games and attractions can generate additional revenue during the day, which means more money in your pocket, ready for reinvestment. Health and safety. There may be times when you purchase something of questionable quality, and we don't blame you. Cutting corners is just good business. But there are steps you can take to ensure you don't get sued for it, and that brings us to liability. Being a thrifty shopper is smart, but be aware that buying things on sale comes with a certain amount of risk. Aside from the daily risk of lawsuits, there's also the risk that something might be hiding inside whatever you just purchased with that steeply discounted price tag. Of course, that would only be a serious danger if there were something outside that's been trying to get in for months now, which we are not confirming to be the case. This concludes the amount of help we are legally obligated to provide. Remember, you are now the face of the newly rebranded Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Wear that smile with pride, and let's make some money. Fazbear Entertainment is not responsible for disappearance, death, or dismemberment. Your restaurant is now officially open. Awesome.
Yeah. But so we now, instead of having to look over everything at night, we now have to look over everything at all times, because we are now the manager. But unlike SpongeBob SquarePants, who needed to prove himself to be a good manager, we just need to do it from the get-go. But this game is broken up into 3 different styles of gameplay. One being a tycoon-style section, where, just like other tycoon games, you're given money and you have to build up your pizzeria to give people entertainment and enjoyment. Where you can buy different attractions, animatronics, different stuff in general. The second style of gameplay occurs right after, being the office section, where you're supposed to do tasks in the middle of the night to get new supplies and stuff, while animatronics can try to kill you from the left vent and the right vent. And you're given tools to help stop them from doing that. And the third style of gameplay is the salvage list, where where an animatronic is placed in front of you, and you have to play it audio to see if any of the servos and stuff still work, and you're given a taser to make sure they stay away from you. And honestly, I like all 3 of these gameplay styles. 2 of them are kind of similar, while one of them is, let's just play a game. One of these things is not like the other. Yeah. The added tycoon section, I think, is really cool. And it's probably the best part of this game. And I know Scott Cawthon said he was going to do a infinite tycoon mode for this game at some point, but that still isn't out yet. And the game's been out for 6 years. Almost 6. Either 6 years or almost 6 years. I can't remember. And I do hope it eventually comes out, but judging from the fact that it's been 6 goddamn years, I don't think it ever will. But the tycoon section is probably, like I said, it's probably the best part of the entire game. The office section is pretty good. It's kind of like FNAF 4, only better, where it's like a mix between FNAF 4 and FNAF 3. Instead of having to move from one part of the bedroom to the other, you're just sat in the office and you can turn right or turn left. But the FNAF 3 element comes in where instead of having cameras to see where the animatronics are, you're just given a map of the location and you have an audio you can press to lure them away. Some animatronics are more affected by it than others. I'm looking at you, Lefty. Fuck you, Lefty. But yeah, this style plays pretty well. And I like this office style quite a bit, honestly, where you just have to do tasks, but just like in Sister Location, when you leave the task manager, it does stop and you have to restart it, kind of like in Night 2 of FNAF Sister Location. But here, I think it's a bit better, than in Sister Location, because in Sister Location, that minigame, you just have to hold it for really long. In this, you just tap it, and you can quickly look, and it won't stop it. The only thing that stops the task is by switching to a different tab on the monitor. And then the final style of gameplay, being the salvage list, is also pretty good. And I want to say the horror factor in the office section and the salvage list section is way more upped and a lot better than some of the more previous entries. Like, in these two sections, I actually feel tense. Maybe not full scared, but definitely feel tense. The office section is nice and cramped, so that claustrophobia kicks in. So that's kind of cool. The series doesn't really do much with that. So I think it's kind of cool to see the office being nice and square, nice and tight. So, your claustrophobia kicks in. And this also kind of brings back an element from the first game that was sorely missed, being the jump scares not having a lead in. Because in like the office section and in the salvage list, you could be doing the most mundane thing and then bang, a jump scare. But sadly, the jump scares suck.
Oh, what a pleasant surprise.
The jump scare is literally just a PNG. It's no real animation, just PNG on screen, fucking Scrap Trap just appears right there. So, I do like the fact that they're going no lead-in with this game, but sadly the jump scare itself sucks. They did update the game to make them a bit better, and they're a bit better in the update, but still not great. But I think there's only really one thing a lot of people remember from this game, and that is the ending. Not necessarily what happens in the ending. I mean, most FNAF lore heads remember, the new place burning down with you inside of it. But it's more or less what Henry says. If we could play like a sped up version of everything he says, that'd be great.
You played right into our hands. Did you really think that this job just fell out of the sky for you? No. This was a gift for us. You gathered them all together in one place, just like he asked you to. All of those little souls in one place, just for us. A gift. Now we can do what we were created to do and be complete. I will make you proud, Daddy. Watch, listen, and be full.
Connection terminated. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Elizabeth, if you still even remember that name. But I'm afraid you've been misinformed. You are not here to receive a gift, nor have you been called here by the individual you assume, although you have indeed been called. You have all been called here, into a labyrinth of sounds and smells, misdirection, and misfortune. A labyrinth with no exit, a maze with no prize. You don't even realize that you are trapped. Your lust for blood has driven you in endless circles, chasing the cries of children in some unseen chamber, always seeming so near, yet somehow out of reach. But you will never find them. None of you will. This is where your story ends. And to you, my brave volunteer, who somehow found this job listing not intended for you. Although there was a way out planned for you, I have a feeling that's not what you want. I have a feeling that you are right where you want to be. I am remaining as well. I am nearby. This place will not be remembered, and the memory of everything that started this can finally begin to fade away, as the agony of every tragedy should. And to you monsters trapped in the corridors, be still, and give up your spirits. They don't belong to you. For most of you, I believe there is peace, and perhaps more, waiting for you after the smoke clears. Although for one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened to swallow you whole. So don't keep the devil waiting, friend. My daughter, if you can hear me, I knew you would return as well. It's in your nature to protect the innocent. I'm sorry that on that day, the day you were shut out and left to die, no one was there to lift you up into their arms the way you lifted others into yours. And then, what became of you? I should have known you wouldn't be content to disappear. Not my daughter. I couldn't save you then, so let me save you now. It's time to rest, for you, and for those you have carried in your arms. This ends, for all of us, in communication.
Congratulations on completing your work week. We apologize if your situation wasn't presented to you in a completely honest fashion when you first started, but it was important that your intentions and actions be genuine. Here at Fazbear Entertainment, we value fun, family, and food. But more importantly, we value our commitment to atoning for past mistakes and tying up loose ends. Thank you for your participation. There is no need for you to return to work next week, as Fazbear Entertainment is no longer a corporate entity. Please accept this certificate of completion. Goodbye for now, and thank you for taking this journey with us.
A lot of people really remember that, and it's kind of gone down as like a meme now. But when you're playing it, it really does feel like a cinematic style ending. Maybe, well, not cinematic. Cinematic's not the best way to word for it, because it's not really, you're just sitting at a computer screen as the world burns down around you. But it definitely feels more like a worthy ending rather than FNAF 4. Is, like I said, FNAF 4 also tried to end the series, but the ending to that game only revealed what happened in the past, and didn't really feel worth it. And then the whole box thing showed up with that game. My God, I forgot to discuss that whole in the FNAF 4 segment. But the box thing now ended up going nowhere, as Scott basically just retconned it. But this game feels way more like a proper ending to the series than FNAF 4 did. It's basically what FNAF 4 did, but better. And not to mention all the cool secrets and Easter eggs to the lore, because this adds a pretty good bit. One, it added the lore of how, because we all knew how William lured the kids to the back room so he could, stab. But this game actually shows how he did it for one of them. And it's pretty fucked up. But I do like the artistic way of showing it through an arcade game. I think that's kind of cool. And the series is known for showing its lore through arcade games. And then the other arcade game shows William kind of being a bit of a, I want to say abusive, but kind of an asshole to his kids. Where we meet Yellow Man. If we could just reshade it to be purple, that way everyone knows this is William, that'd be fantastic. Of him coming home and realizing that his child, the crying child, who I think he has a name, but frankly I don't want to look it up right now, having left, and William kind of being a bit of a dick about it, saying, oh, he'll just wait till he gets home or something like that. I don't want to say he was an abusive father, but definitely seems like there's some undertones like that. And then you have, there's also a bit more humor in this game, especially mainly with the tycoon bits. I mean, you have the fucked up 8-bit minigames, 8-bit lore minigames, but then you have the fucking ball pit minigame, which is also a meme now, of fucking Helpy breaking his back. So goddamn funny. But, it's really fucking funny. And then the whole lawsuit ending's also really funny. Making you wonder if we should call goddamn Saul Goodman up in here to help us get our law firm. But yeah, it's a nice bit of good humor as well, which I can appreciate. And like I said, this feels like if it did end here, I think it would have been more satisfying if the series did end here. It's like I said, it's a definite satisfying ending. But let's get into the final facet that I'm the most mixed on, is the animatronic designs. I think some of the animatronic designs look really good, like the Rockstar animatronics. I think they look really good. And I also like, fuck, what's their name? It's fucking Happy Frog, Orville, these guys, these secondary animatronics. But, I mean, we can't forget Mr. Hippo. I'll talk about him more in the next segment, but... And then we have fucking Trash in the Gang, which, that's just funny. I like that, that's just funny. But then you also have some other really good designs like El Chip, Funtime Chica, Music Man, or should I say, Music Man! I'm just going to try cramming as many Matt Pat jokes as I can. And Lefty, and like really good animatronic designs. But then you get to the scrap animatronics that are seen in the salvage parts. I think Molten Freddy is pretty good, and I don't really care for the whole blob aesthetic he has going down like at the bottom, but I think for the most part the design's pretty good. It's just Ennard without feet and a Funtime Freddy face. Scrap Baby is probably the best design out of all of them. I like the giant claw arm, and it's just, if I had one complaint, it's definitely a different model of Baby. It's definitely very different. I mean, just look at these two. They're practically different animatronic models, which makes sense because Baby was scooped in Sister Location, and this is supposed to be like the remnants of her coming out of Ennard or something like that. But then we get to Afton, or Scrap Trap, and it's a very mixed design. One, because, yeah, it's more damaged than Springtrap, but it also looks nothing like it doesn't look like a natural progression of what Springtrap would look like. Like, look at this motherfucker's peanut head. So, it's a very mixed design. I do like that Springtrap appears here, but I don't care for this design because it looks nothing like how he looked in FNAF 3, or like a more damaged version of what he looked like in FNAF 3. So, it's a very mixed design, but I'm just going to say, it's probably the worst design in the game. But speaking of designs, let's talk about the set design for this game. This probably has my favorite pizzeria look in the entire series. Well, maybe until we get to the Pizzaplex of Security Breach, but I really like this pizzeria style for Pizzeria Simulator. It's just so bright and colorful for that tycoon section, but when you get to the back employee rooms of the other two sections, it's nice and dim and dark, and I like that. So yeah, Pizzeria Simulator is definitely, I'm probably going to put this at the top, honestly. It plays well, it has mostly good designs, and it has a fun looking location. And again, it's a different premise. And again, if the series did end after this game, I think I'd be satisfied. I'm kind of happy it didn't, because some of the games after are also really good. But yeah, for our next segment, we're going through animatronic hell with Ultimate Custom Night. After the success and supposed finale that was Pizzeria Simulator, Scott Cawthon started revealing teasers for a brand new game, and that game ended up being Ultimate Custom Night. Now, before we actually talk about the game itself, I want to talk about the teasers, because the teasers for this game are really fucking good, and probably some of the best in the series, probably some of the most iconic, being the first teasers for this game were, if we can pull them up here, were the roster, kind of like it's like a Mortal Kombat roster, revealing all the animatronics. And if we look at this first picture, there's a lot of characters who wouldn't end up being in the game, like Freddles being their separate character, Endo from FNAF World, Candy Cadet. A lot of characters that wouldn't end up being in the final game, but it's unique to look back on these teasers as well. And then over time, these teasers would get updated to reveal the entire roster until all 50 animatronics were revealed. And Jeez, I need to move over so you guys can see in the background. And then it switched to these loading bar teasers. And as a new teaser, the loading bar would update, more and more of the animatronics mechanics and AI would be revealed. Now, some of these AIs are better than others, but we'll get into that. But seriously, man, these teasers are awesome. They're simplistic in nature, but I remember these teasers far more than any of the others. So I think there is a reason why these ones worked as well. And the game came out in 2018. To pretty good success, honestly. A lot of people really like this game. And I am one of them. I think this game is really good. Is it good all the time? No. But it's still great. So, the basic premise for this game is that it's custom night. You're given a roster of 50 animatronics, well, over 50 animatronics if you... Yeah, technically there's 50 animatronics, but in actuality I think there's 57, because Dee-Dee's an extra character, and 2, Dee-Dee can summon in, I think, 6 extra characters from a bonus roster that can't be selected normally. And I'm not going to go through every single character and their mechanics in this, because that would be way too long. But I'll go through some of the ones that I think are really good and the ones that I think are really bad. So basically, yes, it's just a custom night where you're given an entire roster of characters to choose from to put in your night. This can range from the original Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, to all the way up to fucking the Rockstar animatronics from Pizza Simulator. Or you can have the Phantoms, the Nightmares, Springtrap. You can basically have a wide variety from every single previous game. But this leads into probably my main criticism, and honestly, it's not about the game itself. It's mainly, I wish they updated this game to include the newer characters. The Glam Rocks and all the fuck... And maybe some characters they forgot to have, because, like, there's a lot of awesome characters in this, but it feels odd not having everyone. And I wish they updated this game to have everybody. And even then, I highly doubt this would happen, though. But from the characters we do get, it's still a fun game. I kind of just wish Scott included everybody. From everyone from the past games he forgot to include, and everyone from the newer games. But like I said, I don't think that'll ever happen, sadly. Now, there is quite a bit of lore here as well. And before we go into the gameplay, I'm just going to go over the lore, because the gameplay is going to be a long ride for this one. So, the lore it adds is that it reveals that Ultimate Custom Night is in fact a purgatory-style hellscape for either William Afton, Mr. Purple Man, or Michael Afton. I still don't know if the game's confirmed which one it is or not. I can't remember if the series has confirmed which one it is or not. I think most people agree it's William Afton's hell. But, yeah. And then we obviously have some unique Easter eggs. One being secret metaphorical cutscenes for beating the game and getting certain scores. There's 2 cutscene storylines in this game that you can unlock from beating the game getting certain scores. Jesus Christ, my brain is farting right now. The first one involves Freddy and Foxy in this anime-style fight, even though I don't think they actually fight from what I remember. And the other one features a high school toy Chica trying to get with different animatronic boys, and then deciding to murder them. And both of these are allusions and metaphorical references to certain aspects of the creators of the Fazbear Entertainment company, being Henry Emily and William Afton. The first one, with Freddy and Foxy, shows the butting heads of William and Henry. After their first place, Fredbear's Family Diner falls The other one with Toy Chica is a metaphorical reference to William Afton's bloodlust and of him killing the kids. It's very difficult to understand these, but if we let our boy Daco here explain how the Toy Chica one is...
Everything has a meaning in this game, guys, okay? The cutscenes represent a specific character, and I'm pretty sure you know who already. William Afton. Toy Chica is William Afton, okay? But obviously Toy Chica is not William Afton in the game lore.
Very insightful. Very insightful. So, yeah, now, with all the lore stuff out of the way, and also the stuff with Golden Freddy, because there's a lot of things here with Golden Freddy, too, that I should probably go into real quick. There's also certain Easter eggs you can get by using this item, the magical death coin. The way this death coin works is that if you press spacebar when looking at a certain area, it will delete an animatronic from your night. But if you use this death coin on certain characters, mainly two characters, that being Golden Freddy and Old Man Consequences, who, yes, Old Man Consequences from fucking FNAF World is in here. Okay. I mean, he adds to lore, but it's still odd that he's here. If you use it on Golden Freddy, we get our first official look at Fredbear. And, it's just a jump scare. You play it. Yeah, that's it. It's literally just a jump scare. And some lines that I think Daco unscrambled, and if you want, you can go watch his video on it. I don't want to go in depth here. But then, if you use it on Old Man Consequences, we get a bit of lore showing Freddy, we don't know which one, talking to Old Man Consequences. But most theorists have supposed that this is Golden Freddy, or more likely Cassidy, as I think that's the spirit's name. I have not checked in the FNAF lore for a while. Talking to Old Man Consequences, and Old Man Consequences saying, hey, just let William go. Let him burn in hell, and we can all go up to where we belong. And yeah, this shows, I guess, Cassidy letting go, or not. It's kind of open-ended whether or not what happens. And there is the final cutscene of Golden Freddy speaking directly to the player, saying that they don't think they should be done, or something like that. It's very confusing, but really interesting lore when you try to get into it. Now, on to the gameplay for Ultimate Custom Night, and hoo boy, is it a clusterfuck. Essentially, the way the gameplay for this game takes aspects from all the previous games and melds it into a conglomerate that is this game. And I think it works. Again, parts of it don't work as well as others, but on the whole, I think it works pretty well. But let's go into the parts that work and don't. One, the marionette is a lot better here than he is in FNAF 2. Even on his max difficulty, being 20, because you can only go up to 20, he isn't as nowhere near as annoying as he was in FNAF 2. And seeing as this game requires you to look at other cameras, it does help flesh out the puppet's mechanics a bit better than FNAF 2. But then you have another FNAF 2 character, coincidentally, having a mechanic that isn't that great. That being the fat man himself, Toy Freddy. The way Toy Freddy works in this game is you're supposed to help him beat a FNAF-style game. That being, I think, what is it, Five Nights with Mr. Hugs, the vacuum cleaner from Trash Gang, this guy, this loud-ass motherfucker. And I hate this mechanic so much because there's a lot of other things you have to worry about, like fucking Music Man getting mad at you and clanging his cymbals because things are too loud, or making sure fucking Jacko Chica doesn't come in because it gets too hot, or making sure Chica's happy with the music, or making sure not to stare at Bonnie but stare at Foxy. It's just, Toy Freddy's mechanic is that one drop that's just too much. And there are some other characters that have similar problems, that being just a drop that's too much. One being these three, the Trinity of Terror, as I call them, being Circus Baby, Nightmare Bonnie, and Nightmare Mangle. Holy crap are these characters' AIs annoying. The way they work is they'll only attack you once a night. But the way you have to do it is you have to save up Faz coins, which is like an in-game currency to buy certain things during the night, to buy plushies to ward them off. And that does not really drive well when you have Rockstar Freddy asking you to fucking please deposit 5 coins. And now there is a way you can get around Rockstar Freddy's thing by overheating him, but then that will cause like Jacko Chica to get mad, and it's a very difficult game to wrap your brain around. But there are a few people who have done it, including our man Dawko. And Dawko's excellent victory cry of beating it. Let's take a listen.
Oh my god! Am I kidding me? Oh shit!
Very insightful. Thank you, Lewis. Very insightful. Or, you know, you have this fucking mad lad who comes in here beating 50-20 mode while playing fucking Balloons Tower Defense, which is somehow the most impressive thing I've ever seen, but also somehow the most funny thing I've ever seen. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is this is a very difficult game to get a grasp on how to work around everything. I think that's the best way I could say this game's gameplay, is that you just have to work around everything. Every character has something you can exploit that either might piss off another character or several characters, but not enough to where they'll jump scare you. But there's one character that is the fucking bane of my existence when playing this, and that is Nightmare. I hate this guy in this game. It's his first appearance in FNAF 4 for the Halloween update. He's essentially just Nightmare in that game. He's just a reskin of Nightmare. But here, the way he works is he will appear on your screen, and if your mouse hovers on him for too long, he'll jump scare you. But when you're playing this game and he's at his max, like when he's on like 1 to 10, he's not that bad. But when you're playing 50-20 mode, which is mainly what I'm trying to illustrate here, holy shit is he annoying. Like, he makes the game almost unplayable, but he can't appear when you're on the monitor, so I think that's kind of cool, and gives the player a break. Not that it's much of a break, but, you know, it's something at least. Now, do I recommend people to go for 50-20 mode? If they want to, yeah, I definitely recommend it. It's a fun challenge, and definitely very rewarding to beat. I mean, just listen to this. So happy. But then you have moments. But personally, I'd say either play what you want to play with it, or just do the challenge mode. The challenges, which I think they should add more. There's definitely not that many challenges, like pre-made challenges. I definitely think they should add more. And hey, maybe if they do update this game to include other animatronics that aren't in it, maybe they'll add more challenges to go with it. But like I said, I don't think they'll ever update this game again. So yeah, Ultimate Custom Night. It's definitely going high on the list. It's a fun game, it plays well, it's challenging, but not too hard. But there's one negative. All the jump scares suck. Now, but it's not too much of a negative. It's more of a nitpick. Because this game is not meant to be scary. Or at least, for me, I don't think it was meant to be scary. It's definitely more of like, it's just like, the jump scare is basically just the game over. It's just a game over. And seeing as it's 57 animatronics trying to kill you, I don't think Scott or the people who made this intended it to be scary. But yeah, the jump scares do kind of suck. But honestly, this game plays well, it's fun, it's challenging, has interesting lore. I don't think Ultimate Custom Night is as good as Pizza Simulator. I think Pizza Simulator is more of a fun game to play. But you know what? I'll definitely put it, I think, solid second place. After Ultimate Custom Night, the series decided to experiment in the year of 2019 when 2 games would come out that are very different from the rest. But the first of which being Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted. So, in 2019, Scott Cawthon paired with a new company to make Five Nights at Freddy's games, that being Steelwool Studios. And the first game they made together would be FNAF Help Wanted in VR. Yes, this is the first FNAF game to be made in VR. Now, there was a remake game of the first game that was in VR, but it was okay. But this was the first official FNAF VR game. And how did they handle this first trip into VR? Honestly, pretty well. So, I've only played through this game once. I didn't really do it 2 times or multiple times, but I did play through it once, all the way through. And I did play the Halloween DLC. But essentially, a good majority of this game is just kind of VR remakes of the first 4. That being, obviously, FNAF 1 to 4. Where the first 3 games are almost remade, fully into VR. When they do it with FNAF 4, it's a bit different. Instead of having the nightmare animatronics come after you, it is, fun times and stuff. And I think that's kind of cool. And also, it plays a lot better than FNAF 4. Although in parts of it, you actually, hit to hide in the closet. I think that's kind of cool. But I don't really want to focus on the VR remakes of the first 4 games. And I'm just going to say, they're pretty good VR remakes. Although, speaking of remakes, I'm still waiting on FNAF Plus. It's been in development for almost 2 years now. But the main parts I want to focus on are the new minigames. So I did say in the segment for Sister Location that the part where you're trying to do maintenance on Funtime Freddy was cool, but not executed as well as it could have been. And this game has minigames where you do maintenance on Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. And honestly, they play and are pretty good. It's almost like you're playing a game of goddamn Operation, where you're trying not to mess with anything that you're not supposed to. And again, it's really well done. Some of the other maintenance minigames, like this game probably has one of the scariest sections in any FNAF game. That being Vent Repair with Mangle. Holy shit, is this segment terrifying. This segment shows you inside of a maintenance elevator where you're trying to repair the ventilation system of some random location. They don't specify. But inside the vents with you is Mangle from FNAF 2. And holy hell is just the sound design here is really good, and the dark visuals really do accompany it well. And the fact that the animatronics, when they jump scare you, are now right in your face, just all acquaints to a really good and really terrifying segment. Now, the one with Ennard is okay, but not as good. But yeah, all in all, man, the gameplay for FNAF VR is really good. The VR handles well. It's just a really well put together game. Now, the lore here is a bit diminished, but it's fine. Basically revealing that William Afton somehow split his consciousness into a digital format, creating a glitch trap. Or Melhair. This dude has multiple fucking names. He has fucking Glitch Trap, Melhair, Afton. It's just so many goddamn names. And then in the game's ending, he puts you into a digital prison so he can take over your mind. It's really weird. But you know what? I can roll with it. Now it's like fucking when Fast and the Furious franchise, when fucking Dominic Toretto sends a car into space. I actually haven't watched those movies, but I've heard that they do that and it's kind of like this. But yeah, FNAF VR is just a really well put together game, a really well put together VR game. It's not really much to it. But let's move on to the Halloween DLC. So the Halloween DLC for this game is called The Curse of Dreadbear, where we meet this man, Dreadbear, who's basically just a Frankenstein version of Freddy. That's basically it. He doesn't even really do much in this, despite it being named after him. And the gameplay here is, kind of just the same as VR. It's just all spookified with Halloween. But it leads to the first teaser for Security Breach, because when you beat it, you get to look at Vanny's mask, if we can show a picture of what that mask looks like in this game. Now, obviously, this isn't what the final mask would look like in Security Breach. It looks quite different in Security Breach, but it was the first teaser. I know this segment was actually much shorter than I thought. I thought I'd be talking about this one for a bit. But yeah, it's a great game. It plays well. It's pretty good. Not much lore here, but, I'd say it's definitely an up there experience. I don't know if it's as good as some of the ones I listed, some of the previous ones, but I think it's good. It's alright. It's definitely a good game. Good first impressions from Steel Wool here. And, yeah, that's FNAF VR. I really thought I'd be talking a lot about this. But the same year, Scott would partner with another company called Illumix to bring us another low point in the FNAF series. That being FNAF AR Special Delivery. So, we've made it to yet another low point for the FNAF franchise. FNAF Special Delivery. Now, in concept, I think this game could have worked. Maybe not have been great, but, I think it could have worked. But oh boy did they fumble the execution for this game. So, the way this game works is that it's basically FNAF Pokemon Go. That's basically it. It's an AR game, and I'm not really the biggest fan of AR games, but where basically you're in a world and you can have animatronics be sent to you, and you have to fend them off using like a taser thing. And I'm just gonna say it, man, the game plays really horribly. At least when I was playing it, it played really, really bad. Not only did the AR look horrible, but we'll get into the look later, but it's just, holy shit, does this game play bad. Where, like, you're forced to, like, fucking turn around and turn all the way around, look like a doofus, holding a goddamn phone like this. And it's also horrible to record. I never tried recording this game. I think I tried once, and I hated it so much that I never wanted to do it again, and I just scrapped it. Because, like, you have to have so, like, not only do the way you record it require you to not only screen record your phone, then send it into your computer. It's just a really horrible way to record this game. And honestly, recording mobile games in general is really horrible, but it's really bad for this one. So I feel bad for the people who did try to record this game, although they didn't seem too frustrated like I was trying to. But yeah, this game plays like shit. I'm just going to be completely frank. Because not only do the shock thing not work well, so does the flashlight. And even the flashlight doesn't do shit. unless it's specific to that character you're going up against. And that's another thing. Unlike an Ultimate Custom Night, which had really cool and really unique AIs, all this game really has to offer in terms of differences in play style for different animatronics is that you have to do different things. Just not even different things. You have to do a reskin of the same goddamn thing. And for some animatronics, it's fine, but for most, it's really awful and just not a fun way to play. But yeah, so the game plays like shit, and the game looks like shit. The UI for, like, the menu and stuff doesn't look horrible, but not great. But oh my god, the animatronics in game are terrible. They look awful. They look like fucking crappy ass goddamn PS2 models. Like they just look like polished PS2 models. It looks like shit. And they're not put into the background well at all. This is frankly, I think this game would have worked better if it was if you were in a 3D environment with the phone showed a 3D environment when you turned around, and the animatronics were in that 3D environment. But instead, the animatronics are just fucking superimposed onto your goddamn camera screen. Like this is a shitty ass TikTok filter, and it looks atrocious. Like, it looks really, really bad. And the thing is, the animatronic models, when you see them in, this weird animatronic inventory thing or catalog, they look pretty good. But in-game, they look terrible. So, the game plays like shit, looks like shit, and also has shitty microtransactions. Because it's a mobile game. And all mobile games should have fucking crappy-ass microtransactions. Because part of what you need to do to even fucking play the game, and if you want to go up against certain animatronics, is you need to buy lures to get the animatronics to come to you. But these lures cost Faz coins, and the Faz coins cause real life money. Am I saying cost or cause? And even then, most of the time the animatronic lures don't do dick. It's really bad. So, it's just, oh boy, is it just. And also, Illumix, the company that made this game, basically fucking abandoned it. Because this game has not been updated in, I think, a year. And Illumix has, a huge controversy around this game because they basically abandoned it and now want to forget about it. But people are calling them out for it, and they still haven't responded to anything about it. So, and also, if you're wondering if there's any lore in this game, there isn't. It's just a shitty mobile game. So, is there anything good about FNAF AR? There's one thing. There's only one good thing in this game. The animatronics are designed really well. Like I said, the models, when you're looking at them in the animatronic catalog, look pretty good. And I do like the custom, deep skins and how detailed they are. But, again, they're not really worth paying for. Because, basically, if you want to buy new animatronics and new skins for your animatronics, you have to pay a lot of money. A lot of money. Just to buy when Golden Freddy came out, I think it was $10 to $20. That's exorbitant and draining. It's just so. But I do like the way all the animatronics look, and all the all their skins and stuff. I think they look good and they're really well detailed. But too bad, in game, they look awful. And also, the jump scares are probably some of the worst in the series. This is on par with the Ultimate Custom Night PNG jump scares, or FNAF 3 Springtrap jump scares. They're really bad. And since it's on a phone screen that most people would hold from here, it's not scary at all. So, Jesus, man. This game just fucking sucks, okay? It plays like shit, looks like shit, has shitty microtransactions, has developers that don't even care about it. This game was just dead on arrival. The only other good thing they had was a really good trailer that featured our boy Markiplier. How come you get Markiplier for your trailer when the game is shit? God damn it! I hate this game. Fuck! I'm sorry, FNAF 4. I'm sorry I ridiculed you so much, because I wasn't expecting a game to be worse than you. I'm sorry, FNAF 4. Forgive me. in the kind words of our dear Lord J. Schlatt, this is a fucking F! Holy shit, guys, one more game left. Let's do it. So, we're now up to our final game, the most recent game in the series, being released in 2021, being FNAF Security Breach. For our final game today, obviously, Security Breach. So, for our final game today, does it go out on a high? Thank God, yes. Yes, I really like Security Breach. I know a lot of people don't like this game, and as we'll go through, I can understand why this game does have a lot of problems, but honestly, I really like this game. So, the setup for this game is we play as a lost child in this, having to find a way out of this new pizzeria called the FNAF Mega Pizzaplex. Now, this game takes place, I think, in 2033, from what I know. I don't remember. But this is like but even then, it has more of an 80s style aesthetic, which, as someone who does like 80s stuff and it's more of a Stranger Things, honestly, like 80. It's not like the real 80s, it's more of a Stranger Things style 80s, or I guess you could say film 80s kind of style, which honestly really works. I love the aesthetic and look of this game, and the setting is probably the best one in the series. Like, I love the Mega Pizzaplex and its look. But this game is a free roam game where, like, it's like WSD. It's not you fucking in your office, like, it's not that. This time it's a full-blown, like, free roam game where you're supposed to explore the Pizzaplex, find a way out. Well, different ways out, at least. And alongside that, we have a new batch of characters. Obviously, our main character being Gregory. Plus, the new glam rock animatronics. And before we get into the gameplay, I just want to say, I love the characters in this game. They're probably some of my favorites in the series, and I think a lot of that has to do with, one, they're more fleshed out. Like, they actually have character and personality, which I really love. I love that all these characters have a personality, which I think is great. It works well, and I love it. And two, I also just love their designs. I think it's great. It's streamlined. It's nice. It's just really good designs. So, yeah, I'm just gonna say it. The characters in this game, probably some of the best in the series, in my opinion. And just to quickly go over them, we have the Glam Rocks, Sun Moon, and I guess Eclipse, but we won't talk about Ruin that much here. Then we have Vanny, and then, spoiler alert, Springtrap, as he always loves to say, comes back in this game as Burn Trap, but we'll discuss him a bit more in detail later. And then we also have fucking this big boy, DJ Music Man, who, yeah, just as a quick overview for all the characters for anyone who wanted to know what they were. So, I do like the way this game plays. Like I said, this is a free roam thing where you're freely allowed to go where you want. It's not point and click, it's like WASD and all that. And it plays well. It works well, it plays well. Sorry if I'm treading the same things over and over again, but that's just how things go. It plays really well. The mechanics with some of the characters are also pretty good too. Like, in this game, you're given an inventory of stuff that you can get along your adventure, like a camera, a flashlight, a laser gun. It's like a laser tag gun. And other things, I think. I can't remember. It honestly feels more like, oddly enough, a Resident Evil style thing, where, like, there's multiple little fodder enemies and the big boss fights and stuff like that with the main glam rocks and stuff like that. Now, unlike the boss fights in Resident Evil, the boss fights here are okay. I think the best boss fight is probably the one with Montgomery Gator. I think he probably has the best boss style encounter. Is the one with Chica is just you running up and pressing a button, and the one with Roxanne is just a cutscene. Apparently, Roxanne's one was supposed to be even more developed, and apparently it was supposed to be like a Mario Kart style race. Apparently, but due to timing and scheduling issues, they couldn't get it done, and I'd like to see that maybe one day. But sadly, it's just a cutscene, and if I had one complaint with this style of gameplay, and it has to do with what I just said with the Roxanne Mario Kart race, is that there's not a lot of stuff here. You know, apparently there was, like I said, with the Mario Kart race thing, there was a lot of extra stuff planned with this game, but due to scheduling, it had to be cut. In fact, there's a huge video by a guy named Tetrabit Gamer that I recommend you go watch, where he goes through all of the cut content in detail. It's something he does a lot on his channel, where he goes through cut content in games. Really entertaining videos, honestly. I recommend it. But, yeah, there's a lot of cut stuff here, and stuff that appears but is really cut down, like the Afton boss fight for the canon ending of the game, where you fight Burn Trap, who I know a lot of people make jokes saying he looks like an old man, and honestly, I like the old man Afton jokes. I think they're funny, but that boss fight is not great, honestly. Like I said, I think the best one is Montgomery Gators, but you're just looking at Afton on screens as he trying to finger magic to hack Freddy, and you just press buttons to burn him even more. Honestly, really lackluster. And apparently it was supposed to be even more, but I don't think any of that content's been released. Well, released for people to see it. But, yeah, the Afton boss fight, really, really underwhelming. But then, obviously, let's talk about the main new thing with this gameplay is the fact that you have an animatronic on your side. That being Glamrock Freddy. So, obviously, the main thing with this is Afton and Vanny, who are working together, are hacking all the animatronics in the Pizzaplex to make them evil and try to kidnap and fucking kill Gregory. But Freddy manages to save himself from this hack and teams up with Gregory to help him get him outside when the doors open at 6 a.m. And in this game, or automaton, doesn't really matter. That part's actually really cool, and I kind of wish this game had more parts where, like, you had to be in Freddy. Like, there's not, like, you can honestly beat this game without Freddy, but I kind of wish there was more, or sections in this game where you had to be in Freddy. Because if you're in Freddy, not only will the animatronics not come after you, but it allows you to get through certain sections of the Pizzaplex. But I think there should have been, like, gameplay sections where you had to be in Freddy. Because, again, you can get pretty much all the endings of the game without him. I think the only ending you get in the game where you absolutely need Freddy is the Afton ending. But even then, you only need him for, like, one part, and that's it. So, yeah, I kind of wish there was more gameplay stuff where you were with Freddy, and there probably would have been more. Like, I think this is a game case where I think the game should have been in development for longer, honestly. If that meant the game would be more fleshed out and, had, less bugs, but we'll get to the bugs when we get there, is that it probably would have been more fleshed out, probably a bit better, if the game just spent more time in the oven, It's a little undercooked. But from the stuff we do get, I think it's really good. And I haven't really been mentioning it, but from FNAF Sister Location, we started getting voice acting. And, I didn't really feel the need to mention them in the previous entries. But here, the voice acting really goddamn shines. I really like every voice all the characters have. Like, I think it's really good voice acting. Sometimes it doesn't match the character's lips too well, but yeah, you can kind of excuse it at times. But yeah, voice acting, probably one of the best parts of the game, honestly. It really helps flesh out the animatronics here. Like, it really does add to the whole fleshed out animatronics thing is what I said earlier about this game. Sorry that I'm really all over the wall about this. I'm super tired and all that. So if I sound like I'm insane or all over the wall, that's why. I'm just really tired. But back to the bugs. Holy shit, there is a lot of bugs in this game. Some of them ended up getting fixed with like patches and stuff, but my god, there's a lot of bugs in this game. There's a lot. Like from Freddy not coming when you're calling him, or to Freddy fucking spinning right around, just fucking like spinning like he's having a fucking seizure, or the constant like clipping, or to the fact that there was a bug so egregious to where you could exploit it so much that you could beat the game in like 3 minutes. Like it's insane. I don't know if that bug is still in the game. But yeah, people were using a bug where you clip through the wall to get through sections you're not supposed to be there yet, just to get to the ending of the game in like 3 minutes. It's an egregious bug. And the thing is, I'm never against using bugs and glitches in speedruns, but man, when you have one that egregious, it's pretty insane. It's like in like the alphas for Hello Neighbor, where people were bugging that game's physics out to get to the basement early in like 8 seconds. It's goddamn insane, man. But honestly, I don't find the bugs to be as annoying as some people, but I can imagine them being really annoying, like Freddy not coming to you when you're calling him, or certain aspects of the game bugging out when they're not supposed to. I can understand it being really annoying, and that might tank it in the ranking and all that. But honestly, they weren't too egregious when I was playing it, so it didn't really hinder my experience with it. Now, there is a lot of lore here. Like the Pizzaplex being on top of the burnt down pizzeria from Pizzeria Simulator, or fucking, or the fact that Afton is somehow back again. And then this whole allusion to Glamrock Freddy being Michael Afton and Gregory being the Crying Child. There's a lot here, is what I'm trying to say in terms of lore, and I don't have the mental capacity to go through it all, so I don't want to. Now, I will briefly discuss Ruin. I'm not going to discuss it too much because it just came out, and also I haven't really played through all of it yet. But Ruin, in my opinion, is better. It plays a lot better than the main game, which is sad because it's a DLC. And I do like the more development, all the animatronics and stuff. Mainly Roxanne gets in Ruin. It's mainly a DLC about her, which is fine. I probably would have liked it more if the other animatronics had more appearances. Although you see Glamrock Bonnie in Ruin, so that's cool. Yeah, just flash up a picture of his corpse. Speaking of which, yeah, Bonnie and Foxy are completely absent in Security Breach. There's references to Bonnie, and like I said, you do see Bonnie in Ruin, but like Bonnie and Foxy are completely absent for it. And there's no references to Foxy either. Apparently, Foxy was supposed to be in Security Breach, but due to, timing, he had to get cut, which is sad. Because this is the only FNAF game that doesn't have the main four, being Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. It's the only game that doesn't have them, which is kind of sad. But honestly, all in all, I know some people hate this game, and I can understand why. Like I said, it's very buggy and has very wacky physics, but for me, I had a good time with it. I enjoyed it. Is it the best game? No, but I'd definitely say it goes high on the list. Alright, so our final ranking is Pizzeria Simulator, running away with the gold medal. Really fun, really enjoyable game. So, again, shockingly, I'm surprised I enjoyed this one the most. Snagging away with silver is Ultimate Custom Night. Fun yet challenging. And then in third place with a bronze medal is Security Breach. Again, shockingly, I really enjoyed this game. Then in fourth place is Help Wanted. Fifth place is FNAF 3. Sixth place is FNAF World. Seventh place is FNAF 1. Eighth place is Sister Location. Ninth place is FNAF 2. 10th place is FNAF 4. And in dead last is FNAF AR. There we go. That is the final ranking. This was a really difficult yet really fun video to do. It was fun to look back at all of these games. And yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed this long ass video. And if you did, leave a like if you did, and subscribe if you enjoyed my content. And I'll see y'all in the next video. Goodbye.